Hey folks, welcome to Tyrdom. So, modern man tends to think that he has escaped the old myths, that he no longer needs religion, or that he no longer is a victim of superstition. I would argue that he hasn't really lost these things. He has just replaced it. And I think that he has swapped his wooden idols for silicon ships. And in the ancient North, there was a cautionary tale around this. And it's a famous story about the Sampo. And the Sampo was a magic mill that grinds out infinite wealth to whoever who has it. And it's wealth in form of gold, grain, and salt, just out of thin air. In the Kalevala, the Finnish national epic, which I tend to talk about quite a lot here, the Sampo was forged to buy a future. And today we forge the Sampo to automate us. And the high priests of Silicon Valley, they call this by the name of AGI. It's the same promise. It's paradise without any effort. And it's basically a salvation through a machine. But the Kalevala does not end in a celebration. It ends in a massacre. And let us talk about this for a second. If we look how the Sampo was made in Runo 10, which basically means passage number 10 in the Kalevala, we can find the blueprint of the Runo. The smith, Ilmarinen, forges it from the tip of a swan's wing. He adds a drop of milk and a single grain of barley to create it. And in the story, it's a masterpiece of the human intellect. The ultimate hack, you could say. But if we notice the cost of all of this, Ilmarinen becomes obsessed with the how, and he kind of forgets the why in this process. And we are in the same trance that Ilmarinen was in the Kalevala. I think that most of us think of AGI as building a servant, but we have cautionary tales here in the North. And when you build something that does your living for you, you tend to become the ghost in the machine over time. And in the myth, the second Sampo was finished. It was hidden from people. And it was locked inside a copper mine of Pohjola, behind 9 locks to be specific. And it was rooted so deep that it became a part of Earth itself. And this is the trap of technological dependence, you could say. And we build these systems and then we root ourselves into them as so deeply that we cannot longer function without them. And there's an argument for that we're already in this place, talking about the internet, for example. If the mill does everything, then what happens when it stops? That's a question we should ask ourselves. Or even worse, what happens when it works perfectly and we don't have any reason to struggle anymore? In the Kalevala, the pursuit of the Sampo led to a loss of identity. And I think if we look at how it all ended up in the Kalevala, it ended up in a clash of the gods. And in Runo 42, passage 42, the heroes try to reclaim the Sampo, but they fail. And there's a lot of, things to this story. It's too heavy, too complex, but in the end of the day, the Sampo gets destroyed. It gets smashed into the sea itself. And the, air quote, perfect system of the Sampo was destroyed. And in the end of the day, in the Kalevala, this was the greatest blessing to humanity. The fact that the Sampo was destroyed. And you might ask me, why is that? Well, it turned out that the fragments of the Sampo were enough for humanity. And the small pieces that washed ashore gave us the salt in the sea and the land's growth. And we don't need a God machine to do everything for us. We need tools that demand something from us. I talk about this to a great extent here on Tyrdom, that you need some resistance in life in order to excel at life, if that makes sense. And I think the tale of the pursuit of the Sampo makes you a god, and the possession of the Sampo makes you a corpse. And we're standing at the forge again, I can feel, and I see the similarities between the actual technological advances with AGI and the tale of the Sampo. And once again, we stand at the forge and the hammer is falling. The question isn't whether the machine will work. The question is, will you survive the comfort it creates? In the North, every time you bypass a struggle in existence, you forfeit your soul somehow, or somewhat rather. I think it's important not to worship the mill itself. It's important to stay grounded, like I talk about so very often here. And we have to come to the conclusion that AI won't save you, and it won't destroy you either. And in the end of the day, it will only reveal who you truly are. Okay, folks. Thank you for listening in. And if you haven't read the Kalevala, I strongly suggest you do, because it's truly fascinating. Okay, have a good one. Talk to you later. Tyrdom out.